Hello, hello. Sorry I'm running late. Had to get some food in me after the Inforunners live stream. All right. Hello. Forgot to turn that off. Hello and welcome. Welcome to the office hours, ladies and gentlemen. This is a live stream where kind of go over the news and talk and answer your questions if you have questions, you know, Q&A stuff. Sort of chill out and hang out. I'm going to get started by saying, no, there will not be timestamps on this. And yes, there will be the Squadron 42 monthly report will have its own dedicated video, which will come out on Saturday. So if you're here going like, where I only care about the Squadron 42 monthly report, feel free to go that one. That's probably going to be a better option for you. But if you're here to vibe, to chill, if you were part of the hashtag Shelly Work Squad, then make sure you let yourself be known in the comments down below on YouTube, and you know, let me know. I want to know. I need to get food. I'm eating right now, so. So you get to watch me eat for the very beginning of the show. How y'all doing? Ooh. Hashtag Shelly Work Squad. Nice. This concoction is what Cam and I have called holy pasta, which is angel hair pasta, chicken, broccoli, and then cheese. Just cheese the heck out of it. So it's like a cheesy pasta broccoli mix with some chicken. So I'm gonna chew the way you think. I'm gonna chew right into there. Food, I thought it was done. Yes, because that's what you do when you have a diet. You just stop eating food. You're vibing? Yep. Enjoying the food. It's good food. I'm in fact not a breatharian. Do not look that up unless you want to have some weird Google requests. Hey, Malcurie. I don't know what it is. It's just something that Cam and I put together one day when we were living in an apartment. We didn't have a lot of food. We were broke. We threw this together and we're like, this is actually really good. So we started making it more often. It's pretty good. It's a mixture of actual cheese, but cheddar, melted cheddar, and Parmesan. It's a great way to add protein and vegetables to your otherwise carby meals. I see merch in this, TheAstroPub cookbook. I don't think you want my cookbook, but I can do it. I've got recipes I can put in there. It's very good. Probably too many noodles. It's probably super high in noodle count, but considering today I had a taco. That's about it for food. This is fine. A taco and popcorn. Than this, so not bad. Careful, can't go under too many calories or then your body goes into starvation mode. I think it's like less than 12,000 calories a day. The key is to eat less than you burn in calories, and move around a lot more. I haven't been doing that recently, but that's because we had a kitten, so it's been kind of been hard. But the kitten's finally been accepted by the rest of the cats. So her name is Kit. We rescued her from literally the street. She just kind of walked up on us. Her two siblings were there as well, but they were living outside, and we're like, we got to take these kittens to a shelter or something. Because they were obviously, no one owned them, so they're wild. But Kit was super nice, super friendly. It was like, so she's definitely been exposed to humans, just no one owns her. And so we took her in and started, we're going to take her sisters out, but then they disappeared the next day. So. And I made the deal with Cam that we would take her in because nobody ever, or like black cats have a very little chance of getting adopted. And she is, as Cam calls her, she's a soot sprite from a Ghibli film. She's just a black mass with two big eyes. Hey, Crystal. She's a bundle of energy, runs around, sees everything, and the other cats no longer want to kill her, so pretty good. Quick rundown of the Turbulent news. There's really not much, honestly. Pull it up over here. Basically, yeah, the Turbulent's formerly part of CIG. Company's now over 1,100 employees. One of the largest independent game developers in the world. We actually discovered this today on the Inforunners podcast, which kind of live stream. We talked about that. I believe it is Rockstar is 1,400 employees. So CIG is only 300 employees smaller than Rockstar. Oh dear, facepalms. Well, you did warn us not to Google Breatharian, and you did it anyways. Glad to hear the kitten's doing well. Also, Black Cats rule. Although the PETA at night, with a pain in the ass to see at night with the low lights. Cat, my other cat is Tuxedo Cat, Jack, and he's the same way. It's like if his chest is white, but if he's like laying down, you can't see any of his like white bits, so you just see his eyes. Hey, Pie vs. Cake. Turbulent joined CIG. There's your rundown. No, not even joined. They were purchased by CIG. So now Turbulent is a part of CIG. How's the weather over here? Hope you're coping. It's good. It's a little hot, but not too bad. I think it was only 101 today. I mean, the reality is that Turbulent and CIG were already basically the same company. We'd known that for at least 2 years now. They did a kind of a share swap at some point to kind of strengthen that. And we had a discussion on Discord where CIG made more money last year than they had, like 10 or 12% increase in funds that they weren't expecting. So I mean, it makes sense to just buy them now if they had the chance to. Yeah. Turbulent the announcement just formalizing what had already existed. But it does mean that CIG now has to do a sitcon Montreal. Balls in your court, CIG. Yeah, 3. Now North America is beating Europe. We have 3 studios in North America now. Is there a chance CIG will hire out Turbulent? Probably not. CIG needs everyone they can get. Yeah, it's 101 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like 40, 41 degrees Celsius right now. So it's actually pretty average to cool for August or for July. Yeah, it's pretty average. I live in Texas. Like a cool day in July in Texas is like 90 degrees, so like 35 degrees Celsius, 35, 36. But CIG does not have the pedigree that Rockstar do. However, Rockstars are owned by Take-Two Interactive. CIG have the benefit of being their own thing. Yeah. Listen, mate, 50 degrees Celsius in the summer is normal here. Well, then don't laugh at us when we get like barely above freezing and everything shuts down in Texas. Now you know why. We're built for heat, not for cold. Ironically, the new houses that are being built here are better off than the old houses because they have good insulation, and if you can keep out the heat, you can keep in the heat. So I don't know, Death Valley. You want me to look up the average in Death Valley right now? $47 degrees Celsius. 47. That's up like 110 or 115 degrees. That's the average. Yeah, at least it's a dry heat in Death Valley. Here, it's not. We have humidity, too. Let me look at the current humidity right now. Humidity is at 33%. So it's actually pretty low humidity today. It's probably a little hot. Saturday looks like it's getting a little fresh. But yeah, the highs from now on are, there's 103 tomorrow through Saturday, or through Sunday. Then Sunday it's 102, and back up to 103, 104, 103, so. But our nights get a little bit better. Like, the low for tonight is going to be 77 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like 22, 23 degrees Celsius, I want to say. So maybe up to 25 degrees. I don't know the exact ratio, but 47 is 116. I'm seeing it right here, 116.5 degrees. Yeah. You have to have air conditioning. It's like I think there's a law here in Texas where if you're renting an apartment and your air conditioning breaks down, your tenant, your landlord has to fix your air conditioning within 24 hours, like mandatory, if you're paying for it, because it's a life-threatening issue. It's literally a life-threatening issue. People will die from heat exhaustion here. It's pretty humid in there in northern Arkansas. You mean where y'all sacrifice people to the roads in Arkansas? Very short story. Cam and I drove through Arkansas a lot, going between the West Coast and Tennessee, where her family lives. And we always go through Arkansas. And I've never seen dirtier roads than Arkansas. And it's even creepier because it's like, you'll see like a swamp. And then right next to the swamp is like a car's worth of material on the side of the road that dips off into the swamp. So like there's a tire here, a bumper there, a window there, a door there. And it's as if like something has been swallowed up, but a car's been swallowed up by the road. Oh, 25 is cool. Are you kidding me? Here, 75 degrees Fahrenheit, 75. That's like it's a nice, like a great day. Like tonight's gonna be 77 degrees Fahrenheit. So about, 26 Celsius-ish. Great. Hey, Paul, I just want to say I really enjoy these longer streams, work 12-hour shift and run out other things to listen to. Thank you for keeping up the great work. Thank you for helping me out. I was born in San Francisco, can confirm. San Francisco has also gone down over the last 20 years or so. San Francisco's problem has a lot to do with there's a lot of factors, but one of the main factors that a lot of people don't know about is there's like 8 people who own all the buildings in San Francisco. I'm kidding you not. There's like 8 families that control the majority of San Francisco property. And because they refuse to allow new construction, like to tear down old buildings that are like beyond repair or beyond usefulness and build new properties, they keep the land values very high. So it becomes very expensive to live there. But you also means you can't do things like build homeless shelters or anything else. You have to use the facilities you have. And so because you have a very expensive place to live in a city that refuses to or isn't able to deal with the problem, you have a very dirty city without many reasons. That's very expensive, and it seems kind of like a oxymoron. No, Tango Hurston is owned by one family. Oh, no, Tango Hurston is owned by one family. Yeah, there's only one family with Hurston. Austin's not bad. Austin's dirty at times, but Austin's dirty for like in the hippie way. Like a lot of places in Austin that are dirty are like places that are like old warehouses and areas which have been often claimed by hippies and turned into art studios and stuff like that. But they never really fix them. It's not too bad though. We're just a small family business, Hurston Dynamics. I mean, where's the lie though? Detroit's gotten better. The old meme about Detroit being a post-apocalyptic city is kind of like 10 to 15 years out of date. Real hippies or wannabe hippies? A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. San Francisco has a Leaning Tower also. Oh, the firefighter memorial building? I think that's what it is. It's a memorial to the 1910 earthquake. Oh. The reality is that cities are going to be dirtier than you realize. Just all over the United States. There's no such thing as a perfectly safe city. But in Norway, the government is a player in the number of markets only existing to keep the competition up. Yeah. I'm not going to get into that conversation. I'd love to get into that conversation because that's economics, and I love to talk about the Nordic model and how it's good, but it works for the Nordic countries. It doesn't really work for everybody else, but it's definitely a platform you could build off of for other countries. And the role of government in incentivizing business and regulating businesses to improve the like well-being of the entire country. But that's a completely different discussion than what we're going to have here with Star Citizen. So. I had my first clam chowder in San Fran, though. Needed to visit after Alcatraz. Windy was bitterly cold. People don't realize how cold San Francisco is. The old saying from Samuel Clemens, Mr. Mark Twain. The coldest winter I ever spent was the summer I spent in San Francisco. And it's not that it's actually cold. It's just, it surprises you how cold it can be. Like, it's like, you know, middle of July, and you'll have temperatures at like 55 degrees Fahrenheit, you know, 15, 16 degrees Celsius. Nah, maybe more like, yeah, maybe like right that. You're like, what? It's also gotten hotter recently, but San Francisco, the Bay Area in general, to give you a context of how even the temperature can be, only recently have people started to buy air conditioning. When I grew up there, we never had air conditioning. It was so average to be between 60 and 70 degrees year long that if we were too warm, we'd open the windows and use a fan. If we were too cold, we'd bundle up a little bit, and that was it. You didn't even need to have a fire, and it was fine. On Alcatraz, yeah. It's gotten worse in San Francisco because, you know, everything's gotten hotter, so. Hey, Ronan. One wonders why the war team has so much info on space whale food quality. I mean, Parker, do we want to talk about the why the lore team also has an extensive repertoire of S-pop? And how music is made for S-pop. For those who don't know, S-pop stands for Saisei Pop, which is Star Citizen's equivalent of J-pop, because Saisei is Star Citizen's Space Japan, and yeah, it's pretty in depth. they have some pretty in depth discussions and insight into Saisei and Fujin City and stuff like that. So yeah, CIG has some weird lore that is just very specific on some things. First 2 years lived in Dallas and didn't have AC. You are a brave man, M. Walker. I live in Northern California, and my AC is at 72 all year long. If you lived in, if you live in the Central Valley, or if you live like north or south of San Francisco, if you didn't live like directly on the coast, yeah, AC is much more. Like I know people who lived in Petaluma, like Fresno area, that kind of thing. I think it's Fresno. No, Modesto, that's it. But Fresno, I think Fresno is in the coast, but Modesto, and like everyone had AC in Modesto, just because you had to, because it got hotter in the Central Valley, but. I'm more of a NK pop kind of guy. I can't get enough of that accordion. North Korean pop? Is that what you're saying, Crystal? Yeah, it's the home of Misk, and I believe it's the home of... It's also the home of Tumbril. That's where Tumbrel's out of. Who would have thought that the last car manufacturer in the universe is headquartered in Space Japan? My problem with Star Citizen lore is that we have Saisei, which is this unique area, which is effectively Space Japan. It was founded and created by Japanese nationals who left Earth to go settle it, and that's cool. It's interesting, but we have no like Space Mumbai or Space Shanghai or Space Australia. You know, we don't have a Space Sydney. It doesn't exist. It's like, why do we have one place that's super influenced by Japanese culture, but we don't have anything that's influenced by Chinese culture or Russian culture or, say, Egyptian culture, South African, Brazilian? Like, Chinese and Spanish are some of the most spoken languages on the planet. You don't think you wouldn't have some sort of, Latin American generic, thing, but the lore, as you say, is still an alpha. Well, that would be the case, but the problem is they've already kind of developed all of these planets, and there's really nothing that indicates those exist. I'd love for them to change it so that some of these planets do have some of those more influences, because it'd be fun. It'd be nice to have like different varieties of places you can go to. Hey, Cisco. Because anime is for everyone. Well, it's because, and I'm going to be quite honest, if you haven't noticed this, you haven't played a Chris Roberts game. Chris Roberts is a weeaboo. Like, there's no way about it. That man is fascinated by Japanese culture. And I can almost guarantee you it's because Chris Roberts likes anime, but also because Chris Roberts was a big fan of aviation. He loves aviation. He's fascinated by it. And, the Zero is and Japanese aviation, especially during World War II, is something that's been very well studied. So that Bread King bad filter. Oh, sepia. Yeah. Any sign of some QOL and game media, radio, TV channels? QOL, quality of life? What are you talking about there, Renan? Pyrospace Australia. Does that mean the Vandal is a zero? The Vandal is a zero? Kind of. That's kind of what the Vandal, the glaive, or the scythe, yeah. So when they do the 5 nationalities in Freelancer, was look up the different factions. Liberty, Bretonia, Rhineland, Husari. Sorry. So it's America, Britain, Germany, and Japan is what they have. In Italy? Okay. As a German, I have to ask, since it's a sci-fi trope, are there space Nazis? Dave Lobe, hold on to your seat. The UEE are space Nazis. You're welcome. To a degree, because the UEE was founded by the Mezzers, and it's heavily influenced by the Roman Empire. But people, especially early on, people called Ivor Mezzer Space Hitler. So, if anything, the UEE is like modern Germany, kind of recovering from its shitty past, trying to make amends and be a better country overall. So. It's a little better. Would make a lot of sense to find settlements in verse of different origin stories or culture foundations. Fun indeed. Yeah, exactly. You know, different. I mean, we should also see more like clothing styles that match different, like in blends of clothing from different cultures. Isn't the case kind of like Space Monaco, Monte Carlo? Isn't Cassel? Yeah, kind of something like that. Yeah. What were the alliances on Earth pre-UNE period? There was an alliance that was effectively Southeast Asia and China, and then there was the North American Alliance, which turned into America, or it's like America. It's not America, but it's like something like that. Because there was a North American Alliance that became like North America and South America together. There's the EU, which existed. I think there was, that's about it. I think there was like maybe one or two other blocks that existed, but it was like India, China, Southeast Asia was one, and maybe Russia and like the Middle East was another. But I don't think they've really defined that. And then the EU existed, and then the North American Alliance, which eventually became both North and South America as a single block. So GTA had TV channels with very few funny skits and adverts, radio channels with good music, tongue-in-cheek talk shows. This is what I meant by QOL in terms of in media for Star Citizen. I'd love to see them. I think CIG wants to do that, but it really depends on how much resources they have to do that. So now that I think of it, Messer is the German word for knife. His name was Ivar Messer, which is Ivar is apparently Danish. It's some sort of Norse, I believe. I asked Darj about this because I thought it might be Slovakian or a Slavic origin, but I knew Messer was knife. But hey, Victoria, a Norwegian name or generally Scandinavian? Okay, so that was right. Hey, Purple Yeti, thank you so much for the $2. Everyone forgets the Hispania in Freelancer. Hispania was in Freelancer? That's cool. What about Fiona Messer? We don't know where Fiona Messer is. You know that, Al. Gives them extra life to the ambience of where you are. Yeah. And also, it will give people an identity. If people really like Space Japan, then maybe they'll hang out at Space Japan more often. But if they really like, for instance, Terra has Nova Kiev, which is obviously heavily inspired by Ukrainians. There's also another Ukrainian settlement, which is Odessa in Magnus on Borea. Plus, there's also Newcastle, which is obviously in reference to England, Newcastle, England. Or possibly Australia, but Oh, 30 minutes and I haven't missed much, have I? Hey, how's it doing, Mudagi? We're still kind of starting up. Ivor meaning archer's bow, at least if you ask Google. So it'd be like bow knife. The first emperor of the UEE was named Bow Knife. It wasn't called the North American Union there, Spiff. It was called the North American Alliance, the NAA. And then it was changed from the North American Alliance to like Amerigo was what it was, or something like that. Amicanio. 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 Amecanio was the name of it. Hey, Stratobot. That's Twitch. Do I make any money off of Twitch ads? A little bit. Not enough to value it. Like, put it this way. Let me look up my because they'll tell me my earnings. So let me look that up real quick. As of, let's just say Saturday, which is my biggest one, I made a total of $9 off of ads. That same day, I made more money off of cheers and Prime subs and subs in general than I did off of ads. That's like a high point. My average, like yesterday, or let's just say, like streamed on Sunday. A little bit more money on that one. 23 bucks. I made $7 on Friday, June 30th. So like, I barely make any. Like out of all of let's just say June, I made about $100. I'm speaking actual history, not in game. Oh, there's no such thing as the North American Union in actual history, though, Spiff. Oh, you're talking about they should build White Castle? Yes, we should all. They should have Chateau Blanc. Would be cool if the fourth landing zone on Earth was in Africa. I could see something like, oh gosh, I'm forgetting the name. Like in West Africa or East Africa. I think West Africa is probably would make the most sense. Yeah, because it's a union of states, but there's no such thing as the North American Union. So do you think Bounty Hunter 2.0 will come in to 3.20 as I think, or as I think in 3.21, 3.20.1? I think, well, I don't think so. I think we'll probably see it at the earliest would be like a 3.21 or 4.0. But the longer we go without an update on server meshing, the more I'm guessing that we're not going to see 4.0. I'm guessing what CIG will do is they'll stand up, they'll talk about Star Citizen at CitizenCon, they'll have a bunch of things, they'll do a bunch of things about Pyro, and they'll say, we're still working on it, and we're going to release it next year. And it'll release in October of next year. Because they seem to have... The biggest problem is that PES fucked them over. Like, how badly PES went. Like, they knew it was going to take them some time, but it's obviously taking them a lot longer to get PES stabilized than they had hoped. And those people who are working on PS are the same people who are working on server meshing. That's not a union, though, Purple Yeti. NATO is North American Treaty or North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Less than a union. More of a defensive alliance. Canada, USA, and Mexico sometime in the 80s. You're talking about the, NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement? That was in the 90s. And yeah, that was a trade agreement, but it wasn't similar to, say, the European Union, but there was no, like, parliament or anything like that, like they have in the European, so. Yeah, it was called NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. Do you know the way? I've been saying for a while we'll get a replication layer in Q1 next year and server meshing after that. Sorry, lads. It's more of a it was hard to tell exactly when it's happening. It's obviously CIG. The main focus of CIG is going to be server meshing. The problem is more we haven't heard any updates, so it's really hard to tell. And this is the problem when CIG shuts its fucking mouth like it's doing right now, where we don't know what's going on, so anything can be possible. And it makes it harder to judge exactly, to set expectations for what's going on. So you'll be people coming around saying, oh, it's going to come out at the end of this year. And you'll have other people saying it's going to come out in 2030, you know? And the problem is both of those people could be right and people can't set up their expectations properly. And CIG didn't help by starting the year with a video which is implied that they had just started working on server meshing and then immediately like, no, it's not what we meant to say. And it's like, and then they haven't done a part 2 of that. So it's like, that sounds like what you meant to say, and now you're lying to our faces and not telling us the update. And I get sometimes it's like, we don't have anything to update, then just say that. Say, hey, we're still working on it. We can't really update anything. We're further along than we were in the beginning of this year, or we've had some setbacks and it's going to take a little bit longer. Those sorts of things will help. But Paul Benoit said PES is behind us now. Yeah, in terms of like building it. I've never heard of this, Spiff. Never heard of a North American Union. I've heard of references to North American unions as a possibility, similar to the European Union, but NAFTA is what was the trade agreement was called. And maybe that was the original name for NAFTA back in the 80s, but when they actually signed it in the 90s, it was no longer that. Hey, Westbrew. Then they also say they wanted to get Pyro out before server meshing in the same video you mentioned. Nope, they didn't say that. They said that they were heavily hinting that jump points were separate from the problem of server meshing, and they were trying to figure that out. AUKS is just the flat eyes without the slackers. Ouch. Server mesh seems to have gone the way of the briefing room, but at least with the briefing room, they told us that the briefing room wasn't going to come out anymore. At least they did one thing. The North American Union is a theoretical, economic, and political continental union of the Canada, Mexico, and United States, the three largest, most populous countries in North America. It's not real. It's not a real implemented thing. No. I definitely heard. I've definitely heard that that bandied about a bit, especially in the early 2000s after NAFTA had passed in the 90s, and a lot of people were like, "It's working pretty well. Maybe we should escalate this to the next level." And there's like sci-fi in the early 2000s, which talked about the North American Union, and there's a lot of stuff bounding about that. Yeah. Briefing room? So briefing room was a proposed series of updates for Squadron 42, where each month you were going to get a video which covered what they were working on with Squadron 42. And they said they were going to release it monthly back in like June of like 2020, I want to say, or 2019. And then they said it's only 1 month away, or it's only like next week or soon. It's something they kept saying they were going to do, and it took them like 6 months to release it, or it was a year after they announced it was going to happen, they released it. And then they said, we're no longer going to do this anymore. There's only one episode of the briefing room that exists, and they decided not to do it anymore. So. Big water. Series of 1, wasn't it? Yeah. No, I think they did a virtual CitizenCon in 2020, Crystal King. I remember them doing that. I think the briefing room came out in August of that year, though. Serving meshing is the Angry Man's modularity. It's all done, but we have to put it in because they have the show progress and all the dependencies have been sidelined. Yeah. Why is Squadron removed from the purchase? Real talk. I can tell you why. And it's not the way it's greed, but it's not because of what you think. There's actually a great video that was done by Ray's Guide, where I 100% agree with him, which is Ray's Guide believes, as do I, that CIG is going to make a major announcement about Squadron 42 at CitizenCon this year. There's been a shit ton of evidence leading to that, and the removal of Squadron 42 from the website doesn't seem to match up with anything that CIG has done in the past. If it was just a price change, they could have just changed it. If it was a law change, they could have easily just blocked the sale of it in the EU countries. Because you can do that. It's not like they hasn't stopped people from doing something like that in the future. There's also everything I've looked up in terms of the laws about, you know, not being able to be sold something without a release date. That's not as far as I've seen an implemented law or infects them. So the reason why they would remove it from the website is because they had to do it suddenly. Because if they gave any indication that they were going to change the price, people would have purchased a shit ton of copies at that low price. But if they released it at $60, if they just suddenly changed it to $60, it would also tell a lot of people what the fuck is going on and make people start anticipating something that doesn't exist yet. So instead of tipping their hand that they're going to do something with Squadron, they removed the price. They removed it entirely, saying it's going to be a price change. And what they're going to do is probably release a brand new website at the CitizenCon this year, which will have separated from Star Citizen, which will have the package in a separate store rather than just CIG's web store, to make it a little bit easier. And so effectively, my pipe dream is a new website, Sand Spectrum. Yeah. So, effectively, the reason why they would do it is so that they don't have a sudden rush of purchases at the smaller price, because they want to make as much money as possible off of Squadron. And if they make an announcement that Squadron 42 is coming out next year, they expect an influx of people, because it's probably going to be corresponding with trailers and other updated media material, which they want to promote, probably even like ads on YouTube. And they don't want that because of things like... what was I blanking on? Like resellers and stuff like that, or leaks, because of possibility of leaks and stuff. It just makes a lot of sense just to do that. I still think it's odd. It's really fucking weird the way that they've done it, because there are other ways they could have gotten around it. It's just a very CIG cryptic way of getting that done, because it still hasn't come back up. But I don't see it as anything but that. If Starfield and Squad 42 are huge successes, how far behind do you think Microsoft will be with a new freelancer game? Probably 3 years. I'd almost guarantee you that there'd be a new Wing Commander as well, and that at a time as well. And they will announce holiday 2024 and the release period. Lol, come on, Pod. I'm traveling to CitizenCon. Don't give me hope. They'll announce it I think they'll announce it's going to release in 2024. But I also don't think they're going to release it in 2024. I think they'll release it in 2025. You lost the stream? It's still up for me. Not even drop frames. New website reveal for second day of CitizenCon? That would be my guess. I'm still live, y'all. I don't see how y'all see I'm not live. Answer the call. Call harder. Yeah. It must have been a Twitch thing, because I never saw it. There's no drop frames on my end. It's all fine. Huh. Didn't even change the session time, so... It's because I was saying that explaining what's when Squadron 42 is going to release, CIG cut the line. What I was saying, and I'll say it again, I believe that CIG will announce a release date, period. A release period, not a date, for Squadron 42 at CitizenCon. And they're going to have probably a new website for Squadron 42 specifically, because they don't want to tie Star Citizen and Squadron 42 together right now, because that would be a bad marketing decision. Saying Squadron 42 has taken 10 years to come out is one thing, but saying it's the single-player version of Star Citizen and then bringing up this whole list of problems with Star Citizen is another. So removing themselves as much as possible from that PR headache to sell this new game is important. And then after it's successful, if it releases well and is successful, then you can start tying them back together a little bit more, which would get people more excited for Star Citizen because Squadron 42 has been released. It's a game, it's completed, it hopefully is mostly bug-free, and so on and so forth. There's no way you're going to see Squadron 42 announced just drop out of the blue. It's going to have at least a 6 months to a year lead up, which is why holiday 2024 makes sense. What dev under Microsoft would make a freelancer game, though? Real talk. I don't know. I don't know how what devs they have. Possibly this Flight Sim people, the Microsoft Flight Sim developers. And then be delayed by 6 months to a year? Yeah. I'm expecting Squadron 42 release in the winter of 2025. Sometime between Invictus and CitizenCon 2025. That would be my guess. How about release at 2024 CitizenCon? I think that's optimistic, but I'm not optimistic about CIG's dates. So, how long after Squadron 42 do you think we'll get the Odin system and the other stuff in the PU? 6 months to a year. It really depends on. Likely, a lot of that stuff will be available for Star Citizen within 6 months after it's added to the PU, or after it's added to Star Citizen, to Squadron. 6 months after it's added to Squadron, then it'll end up in Star Citizen. I don't know where the concept of Seagal came up. Seagal's not a good actor, never was a good actor. I don't know why they'd hire them. Could be 5 years, just low priority since they're working on Squadron 42 Part 2. I disagree with that notion because you got to remember that one of the reasons why CIG is so slow, there's many reasons why CIG is so slow, because they are their own worst enemies, and this funding model is both the reason why Star Citizen exists and also the reason why Star Citizen's taken 11 years to make. Probably longer. Likely longer. Obviously, it's not releasing anytime soon. And the other reason is because CIG is working on 2 games at once. Squadron 42 Part 2 isn't going to require a ground-up recreation. The reason why Squadron 42 is taking so long is because they have to build an engine, build, rendering tech, implement next generation, or current generation, tools like Vulkan API. They have to make sure that ships fly properly. They have to get animations in. They have to get the ships imported and built. Like, all of that process takes time and energy and money. But once that's done, they don't have to rebuild the Idris. They don't have to rebuild Vulkan integration into Star Citizen. They have the base product. They can just take that base product and evolve it, which won't require nearly as much effort or number of people as it took to create the original version. So anything that's developed for Star Citizen can also be ported over to Squadron, the next part, whatever, Squadron 42 Part 2. So I think the idea that CIG is just going to never work on the PU and constantly move to Squadron 42 doesn't really take into account why it's taking so long for them to build it in the first place and how that'll work going forward. I get it, Crystal. You're cynical about Star Citizen. Speaking of Halo, I heard or read somewhere there will be a remake of the first game. I don't know why they'd remake it. Hopefully they don't give it to 343 since they're just bad at doing that game. For Squadron 42 Part 2 will likely be 50% asset work. Yeah, we're not going to see a lot of the fundamental stuff. And that's the reason why Star Citizen, the reason why Star Citizen is so slow is because, you know, server meshing. Like, it's just taking them forever to do the basic foundational stuff. Yeah, I love the game too, and I understand that it's a situation where you just don't follow it as much. I have to because it's part of my content. I'd love to be able to branch off and do things like Starfield, which I will, and Armored Core I'm going to do, even though nobody's going to watch me do it, and those sorts of things. But I also know that I don't do it. Like, I've been spending the last weeks of June and the first couple weeks of July writing, like creative writing. Took up like model painting, mini painting, playing other games, stuff like that. People will watch Paul. Thank you, but not a lot. That's probably the reason, though, Crystal King. You probably need a break. You need to try follow another game or find a hobby somewhere else other than Star Citizen. That's the case with everything. Like, I see people whose main hobby is Warhammer, and they are unsufferable. It's just like everything that GW does is terrible and horrible and will ruin the game. And it's like, I think the closer you get to something, the more you obsess over something, the worse it's going to feel. That's been my experience too. As I've been watching anime and getting into like watching AniTubers and figuring out, okay, what should I watch? Again, because I get it off and on into it. I don't really delve into it because, you know, it's anime. Like 60 to 80% of it is just garbage. So, just like most media these days. But when I watch those YouTubers, they fucking hate it. like they despise the thing they do. But every so often, a new thing comes out and they really like it, and it reminds them of why they like it. And I think that's the same thing with Star Citizen. It's like Star Citizen, you can be far too close to it as for content purposes. You just be like super bitter and angry about it. And sometimes it's healthy just to say, fuck it, I'm going to do something else for a bit. Building a video game ain't like dusting crops. Without precise calculations, we could fly right through a T-posing NPC or bounce too close to 30K, and that'll be the end of your trip real quick, wouldn't it? Hey, C Daddy. I'll watch you play no matter what you play. You're a genuine fun creator to watch. Thank you, Dave Lobe. Lobe. Squadron 42 release will have a huge asset dump in the PU. Again, it doesn't quite work like that. Anything that is in Squadron 42 takes about 6 months to release into Star Citizen. So if the beta phase for Star Citizen or for Squadron 42 is 6 to 8 months, then we'll likely see over the course of that 6 to 8 months, a lot of those assets end up in the PU before Squadron 42 releases. Or right afterwards, but it's not going to just like it's done in Squadron, so suddenly it's out in Star Citizen. It's just a matter of how these things timed. I would say 6 to 12 months is average because they work in about 6 months blocks in terms of planning. There was something else that was said earlier, and I saw it and I missed it. Halo 1 was already made for the 10-year anniversary. The MCC team, however, is working on fixing and releasing the Halo 2 E3 demo playable content. Oh, nice. I like that one. Do you think once Squadron 42 gets released, we'll get a lot of the game? Star Citizen will get a lot of gameplay from Squadron 42. I think we'll get earlier than that, actually. Hey, Paul, I'm playing Phantasy Star Online again because of new classes. Perfect timing. Hey, it's great. I knew a couple of content creators who did a lot of Phantasy Star Online stuff and kind of moved on, but I think Chris is prone to a word I'm not going to try to say. Held in check by someone whose duty is to temper his ideals. Wouldn't it be fun to have if every character in Squad 22 was played by Rob Schneider? That's going to be a mod, and you know it's going to be Crystal King. Someone's going to mod Rob Schneider as all the characters in Squadron 42. Another lovely German word is, I'm not going to try to say it, which is face in the need of a slap. Oh yeah, I've heard about that one. I love the German words which are just idioms. Like everyone else is like, we'll make up this idiom that makes no sense, and the German's like, we'll invent an entire word that means a sentence, which basically is an idiom. See, Daddy, are you ready? Are you ready to go to the hospital at CitizenCon? Because I'm ready to go to the LA County Jail, baby. Let's go. You're a former sailor. I would touch you and my hand would break, and then next thing I knew, I'd be flying across the sky, wondering how the hell what the hell the number of that truck that hit me was. Get easy guide. Do you think they ever had Mountain Dew, the planet Mountain Dew? I wish they would. That'd be fucking hilarious. I'm Truck-Coon, baby. You should eat your spinach to counter the sailor. I just need to have a tree with me at all times, so I'll punch Sea Daddy and then throw tree in front of me, because the only way you can counter a sailor is a Marine. Quick, be my meat shield. Fun story. I got my wife to play Halo, even though she hates console games, because my wife is the original. No joke. My wife was into PC games before I was, and was more of a PC gamer than I was, and refused to play console games until I forced her to sit down and play some. And she swore the entire time. She's like, I hate controllers. Controllers are stupid. They make no sense. So, you know, I was destined. I someday I have to just remind her that all of this is her fault, because without her, this wouldn't have happened. But her, you say, oh, I thought you were like a merchant marine or something like that as well, Sea Daddy. Oh no, you know Tree. You and Tree know each other. I remember that. Let's see you. Yeah, they are still streaming CitizenCon this year. So yeah, I would end up flying like that. We were sapping the army, made things go boom. Nice. Nice. I think many people derive much schadenfreude from our community sometimes. That's true. I live in the Austin area, and there's a city, which is German name, which is a fun German name to say, which is Pflugerville. And it's spelled like you'd think a German word would spell. And I believe it's Pflugerville that has one of our biggest water parks in the area, and it's called Schlitterbahn. Could we rename Walla to Mount Dew? Is that an idea? Let's poke it with a stick. Let me drive this RC race car turned into a robot next to it and hit it with something. So what you're telling me, C Daddy, is that you got to play with explosive Play-Doh in the service. Your job was to make spicy Play-Doh go boom. As a German, I love how the English-speaking world uses our words because they don't have them. I mean, we do have them, but they're sentences, or they're emotions, or they're idioms, right? They're basically idioms. You just take an idiom and turn it into an actual word. For those who know what an idiom is, it's like, killing two birds with one stone kind of concept. Like in English, we would just say punchable face. This person has a punchable face. It's just two words, and you turn it into this like 17 character long word. Hey, Vian, how you doing? So there's always a new Braunfels. Right. Thank you. I forgot where it was. I always forget it was in Pflugerville. There's a local Pflugerville has like a, I think it's like a P in front of it. It's like PF is how you say it, but the P is silent. So there's a joke that there's a local fast food restaurant called P. Terry's in the area. And the joke is that goes around here is that if P. Terry's ever opens up in Pflugerville, do we just call it Terry's? Because the P is silent. So I have an ANSI name for a faction, the Legion of Doom. Or go by its proper name, the Legion of Delightful Organizers of Optimistic Merriment. I like that one. Schlitterbahn. Schlittern is the act of slipping across ice without control, and Bahn means a sort of ride. Yeah, it's a water park, so it's like ice ride sort of thing. Fredericksburg is straight up ripped out of Germany and plopped into Texas. Yeah. We use a German word because it encapsulates a whole sentence and doesn't mean we always understand its context. That's true. That's true. So, let's go through here. By the way, y'all, we're only about... I'm at 16,913 followers on Twitch, and on YouTube, I'm at 4,490. So I'm only 10 away from 4,500 on YouTube, and I am like 85 away from 1,700 on Twitch. So if you're enjoying this, hit the follow button on Twitch and subscribe to us on YouTube. Means a lot to me. All right, so let's go over some of the other stuff before we get into the reading. Go back to RSI. Look at the roadmap roundup. Ironically, we use many English words. For example, we call cell phone handies. Legend is some German tourist saw one and a dude said it's handy. There's a lot of like small little things like that. You see English words are getting borrowed a lot. Like I know in I think it's just human nature. Like languages will just shorten shit because you just don't want to say the full fucking word. Like in the US, for instance, people will say McDonald's, but there's so many different names for it. Mickey D's, Macca's, you know. And I found that that's the same case everywhere else in the world. Like no one calls it McDonald's everywhere. They call it nicknames, MC or whatever, you know. Macca's. Macca's is awesome, I think. Slang is weird. Macca's is actually not that too often. I think the reason why, because I've also learned that McDonald's in Japan is called Maca or something like that, or Macca's. It's something similar to that. Like that's just what they call it. It's like just the name of it. No one calls it that. And that would make sense if they have similar nickname between Australia and Japan, since they have such cultural crossover all the time. Just Servo, yeah. So Turbulent is now CIG Montreal. I think it's still Turbulent. Just kind of like how for a long time, Manchester was just Foundry 42, but it was still part of CIG. I think it's going to take a while for Turbulent to change over their terms, so they're just Turbulent owned by CIG. But effectively, they're CIG Montreal. But yes, C Daddy, we all appreciate what you do, even though what you do is deal with the bullshit nobody else wants to do. First time I'm seeing new numbers of employees too, over 100 or 1,100. Yes, MacD's. I think I have some idea because I have to deal with this website too, and this website is a piece of shit. No offense, Turbulent. Actually, no, heavy offense, Turbulent. You made it an award-winning star map, and this is the best website you can do? Come on. I can imagine the back end is held together with binder twine and glue. So I'm glad. I'm grateful for you dealing with this stuff. Why did the star map get an award? Doesn't seem great. That, by the way, remember that the star map runs on effectively Chrome. It's a website. That 3D fully rendered clickable. That's a website, not a video game. That's nuts. For its like innovative design and other things like that. It won. I forgot which award it won, but it makes sense. Now, recently it's begun to break down because it hasn't been maintained properly, but it's pretty impressive for what they did. So Australia and Japan are sort of brothers of lands distant. Kind of. From what I understand, there's a lot of sister cities between Australia and Japan. I know there's a lot of people who go vacation in Australia when it's too cold in Japan and vice versa. We used to call the Golden Arches in the US too. I remember that's a nickname for it. Because, I mean, you got to remember that Australia is also closer to places like Indonesia, the Philippines, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, China, Taiwan, Japan, those areas, than it is probably to the U.S. There's a huge fucking ocean between us and the U.S., between Australia and U.S. So there's probably a lot more cross-cultural exchanges in those regions. Larger cities with many countries, actually including China and America. That's true. I'm going to when because I know Diablos is coming over. I'm going to buy a bunch of Foster's beer, and I'm going to give them as gifts to our Australian visitors during CitizenCon, because I want to see their faces. Have you ever thought of doing a series of videos on each planetary systems and updates? I did do something called System Survey, which I looked at each individual system and talked about the lore behind it, but... Don't do that, Paul. Why do you hate us? Listen, I've been told from people with good authority that if you like someone in Australia, the more you are mean to them and insult them and troll them, it means the more you like them. So if I'm giving you a Foster's and you're an Australian, it means I like you because I'm fucking with you. Hey, Nightcub. My kids in backwater Japan did an exchange with Californian City. American kids, the biggest shock and complaint was lack of AC in the gym. Yeah. No one in America drinks Foster's either. Like, nobody fucking drinks Foster's. At Truth Seeker. What did Truth Seeker say? Moons around Microtech are mostly windy. Yeah. Those Outback Steakhouses in Australia are just as... Listen, that's Australian American food, all right, there, Aimless? All right? It's just... This is American as Chinese food and pizza. As Chinese food and Mexican food. You know what, chat? I'm going to be right back. Because I realized I just drank a bunch of stuff over the last hour. So I'll be right back. I'm going to make sure everything is working. We're good. If you are not in chat, if you are not in YouTube or Twitch chat, mute yourself. Because
it was at this moment that he knew.
It's going to get kind of loud. Be right back.
I can fly. I'm pilot. I can fly. I'm pilot. Good news,
Piloting is a complicated profession.
2 words. Distress bacon. 2 words. Distress bacon.
Drugs.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
Hello. I like money.
Weapons free, y'all.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
It was at this moment that he knew.
Distress
He
bacon.
fucked up.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession. Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy. I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Good news, everyone.
All right, stop it. No more.
2 words.
No more fun.
Distress bacon.
No more fun. I said no more. Yes, I can. Like this. I've stopped the signal. What's a good Australian beer brand? That's a good question. I don't know if there's a popular Australian beer. There's probably some good local brews for Australia, but I don't know what a good Australian beer brand is. What about Aberdeen Steakhouse? There we go. What are steakhouses in America? What are steakhouses an American thing? No, not necessarily.
My spaceship. You can take away my space suit. You can even take away my space lasers. But you can never, ever take away my space game.
Good has subscribed.
Thank you so much for that. For that 1206 good. Is that Korean? Anyways, welcome. Welcome to 1206 good. You're a very important pupper, very impressive pisser, very neat pedestrian. This is your fault. You're drinking that. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. Oh, here it goes.
You can take away my spaceship.
Spaceship.
You can take away my space suit.
Suit.
You can even take away my space lasers.
No pew-pews.
But you can never,
ever
take away my space game.
G-Sharp just resubscribed for 52 months.
Thank you so much, G-Sharp, for that 52 months of support. You were very important, Pablo. Very impressive. This is very mid-bastard. This is your fault. You're drinking that. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. As an Australian, people who are nice to us become acquaintances. People who bust our balls become true mates. That's my goal. My goal is to give Foster's beer as a welcome to to America, and then ask every Australian I meet if they want to, throw some shrimp on the Barbie. Because they don't call them shrimp, they call them prawns, and I don't fucking know anyone who calls them a barbecue, or calls barbecue Barbie. Get him a beer from New Zealand. No pew-pews. Yeah. I feel like an Australian would laugh at being called a New Zealander, and a New Zealander would get offended by being called an Australian. Ugh. All right, let's get back to this. All right. Roadmap Roundup. July 12th, 2023. Seraphim Station. These have been added to the release view. Seraphim Station. New Crusader platforms. The following have released past their final review and become entitled to committed. Arena Commander experimental game modes. New mission salvage contracts cover-up. Miss Coal Sea and the wheeled vehicle handling improvements. Yes. So, Seraphim Station New Crusader platforms have been added to the release view, which means that they're like 70% certain, but if they've been committed, it means it's like a 90% certain. CIG rarely removes anything from committed. I think they've done it once, maybe twice in the last 3 years, 2 or 3 years. Most New Zealanders live in Australia now, anyways. Well, it's because New Zealand doesn't exist. It's a lie. It's a deep space lie, or deep state lie. Because have you look at how many maps just don't have New Zealand on it. Obviously, if it's not on a map, it doesn't exist. That's how it works, right? I Seraphim, that is true. Seraphim is committed. Even though it doesn't say committed, it is actually committed on the cards. Deep space lie. Darsh, aren't you supposed to be asleep? It's like 4 o'clock in the morning there. Hey, coffee. It's only 2:30 a.m. How did your car survive, Darsh? Getting pelted by hail? You know what the one thing CIG hasn't done? They haven't released the Squadron 42 month. Oh, no, I say that. They just did. They did earlier. I just didn't see it. This is a garage, luckily. That damn episode. Just finished watching Star Trek The Parent Trap. I haven't watched any of the new Star Treks. I've gotten so far behind. I need to catch up on those. And in the 80s, a New Zealand politician campaigned in Bondi, Sydney, because there were so many New Zealanders living in Oz. I mean, I think of any people. I said the new wheeled vehicle improvements, and Darsh just appeared out of nowhere. So I definitely disturbed the Darsh by giving him hope that that wheeled vehicles may actually act like real vehicles. Let me look at this press release. So, friends and partners, it's with great excitement and pride that we announce today that we have signed a definitive agreement for the acquisition of Turbulent by Cloud Imperium Games. Developer of massively multiplayer AAA game Star Citizen, CIG is associated with Turbulent for several years. This merger will allow Turbulent to continue its plans for expansion while remaining true to its values. Over the course of history, Turbulent has produced more than 250 interactive projects developed for the benefit of many of its clients in the video game, education, and entertainment sectors. These projects have won hundreds of awards for a variety of national and international competitions. Our company is built by a team of talented, creative people who have worked tirelessly to invent and create creative, innovative, and groundbreaking technologies. Our mission has always been to provide employees with a place to be creativity, where creativity and innovation can flourish. We are proud of what we have accomplished and the reputation have earned. Okay, seamless transition. All projects with Turbulent's current clients will continue as planned. The management team and the respective project teams will remain in place and will ensure the diversity of internal expertise. In addition, the company will continue to operate in its primary language, French. In addition to keeping all the current projects and clients, Turbulent will bring our technological know-how to the culture, innovation, and development of Star Citizen. We are convinced this will help take the game to new heights. We will continue to work with the community and support open development of principles we have in the cornerstone of Turbulent and Star Citizen since the very beginning. As senior executives of Cloud Imperium Games, Benoit, Mark, and Claire will continue to lead this exciting new chapter in the history of Turbulent and Cloud Imperium Games. Yeah, pretty good. Basically, nothing's changing. Literally, nothing's changing. It's just now, Turbulent is now a subsidiary of CIG. That's it. Man, I wish they were putting you out of a job. No offense, Shiny. It also means that they definitely are going to have a CitizenCon Montreal now. There's no excuses for it. I mean, just so easy, little thing to knock out. They could have totally had any time, therefore they never will. Oh, God. I love Turbulent. The end. What's up? Hey, Donnie. Or says it's French, citoyen con, or citoyenne con. I don't know how you pronounce. Is it Y pronounced with like a Z in French? Dude, it's really hot in Texas. It's broken. No, it's Y? Okay. Listen, it's 101, all right? You know, it's going to be 77 tonight. It's going to be, but it's going to be 103 for the next week. Except that CAG will be paying Turbulent's wages. Yeah, but I mean, all of the revenue that Turbulent was bringing in from outside clients isn't going to change. So really, it just means that CIG is making all of Turbulent's profits now too. It should only be a 1 minute, Shiny, but yeah. South Georgia / North Florida ain't doing much better. I said it's pretty average, but it's hot, but it means average for July. It's not humid here, thankfully. It's only 33% humidity, so it's pretty dry here. Just nice in some ways. Oh, I didn't see that. Wansuk Kim, thank you so much for that, being a VIP. And Forged Horizons, thank you for being a VIP. And Purple Yeti, again, thanks for that $2. For some reason, it didn't give me any updates for that. I don't know why. Thank you for those becoming members on YouTube and such. The last E is silent, the double N is long. So, Citoyen Con. Citoyen Con. Yeah, Citoyen Con. Is that what it is? I didn't say that. I don't speak French. Hablo un poco español, pero no es bueno. I know enough to be dangerous. That's about it. Citroën Con. Taco Con. I know enough that a French person will speak English if you stop butchering French. It's a good question, Nightcob. I don't know what to talk about. This is the kind of the dead zone of Star Citizen. Is there anything you were interested in talking about, Nightcob? You could talk about me. I mean, I wouldn't mind talking about the package thing. And I said this on Twitter, and some people got really mad at me. And I try to explain it, but people just don't listen. So I'll give you my breakdown of this. And I know a lot of people have their hot takes on it. The issue with the packages that CIG is selling right now is that the packages themselves are being sold to newcomers. And if they lose those things, which is very easy to do, you can very easily lose that equipment, that starting equipment. There's no way of getting it back, short of melting it, like getting a refund for it. And that's just going to add more work to CIG to like having to deal with that. I don't mind the packages themselves. like that exist before this, because it's like, yeah, but it's like they're like exclusive skins for things, and it's like they're stupid. They're not worth purchasing. The problem is more of this kind of advertisement as a package that will give you an advantage in the verse. It's like it should. That's fine if there's a means of returning it, even if it's time, like 24 hours, it comes back. But there's not any availability. This isn't like oh well, we decided to do this on a lark and we didn't realize. CIG's known about this for months and years that they've wanted to do this, but they don't have the back end support for it. So just don't do it. Death Marker, you just got a corpse run, yo. That would be fine if the server doesn't crash or 30k, or you didn't die because of a bug and it just completely disappears off of the face of the universe. Like, if your ship crashes or there's a bug and your ship gets lost, there's still a way of recovering the ship. You can still reclaim the ship and get it back, even with time and other sorts of things. But it's the issue is there's no way of doing that. Yeah, I would have no problem about selling these like little packs. They're still not good value, but if there was an ability to get them back, that's fine. It's like, yeah, I mean, there's a means to reacquire your gear, and it's something that CIG's vocally said that they wanted to do for at least a year now. It's just a self-own. It's a slip up. It's its own goal which they could have avoided. It's crazy. It's been a year, no update on pledge gear and returns. I don't think it's that crazy. It's just not a priority. But it's weird to do this to something that's not, when it's already not a priority. It's like, why? Just don't do it, or make it a priority. You think CIG will add terminal IRL purchase equipment similar to how we use for terminals to claim our ships, just with a timer? Something like that will happen eventually, but. Now, I think a lot of people think you say, like, I heard some people saying, like, oh, you're just looking to make up content, you're making drama where it doesn't exist. I'm like, no, it's a concern. I think it's just something to bring up to CIG to be like, hey, don't do this, please. You know, maybe rethink this in the future. It's already too late. Yeah, it feels like selling the gear is a priority, but returning it isn't. Yeah. I was crashed into Tressler and the gear I was wearing ended up on a local. That's something they have done recently. I think for about a year now, where if you die close to the to a station, all of your gear is returned to that station's inventory, or a landing zone. So you die in a landing zone, all of that stuff is returned to the local inventory of that landing zone. I think they did that since the local inventory stuff became available, which was like end of last year, or no, 2 years ago. Yeah. We can also talk about the new missions coming along in MFT's new design document on reputation and what we'd like to see. There's a new design document for MFTs? Where's that? I'd like to see this. Multifunction terminal, I think. I think it's supposed to be MFD, multifunction display, but I think that's what it is. Oh, mission feature team. Okay, so he's actually talking about mission feature team. They did in the latest monthly report? Pull it up. technical design document was completed for the system that governs player reputations with in-game ores, such as Crusader Industries or Ninetales. This relates to things players can do outside of missions, such as killing rival NPCs. Okay, that's an interesting one. Can we talk a little bit about reputation? I don't mind doing an entire thing on reputation. Reputation is one of my babies. It's one of the things I really care about and really want to kind of like see more and learn more about. So. Talk about reputation and its overall that's that kind of stuff. They will deepen the fights like medical. Will have to actually operate on beds to heal, perform surgery. Do you roughly know when that's planned? They have to get a lot of the basics features in. So like we're probably looking after 4.0. Mission feature team. So mission feature team is the team that works on all of the like technical background stuff that runs missions. That's I'm blanking on his name. He's in a lot of ISCs and such. Elliot, thank you. Elliot Maltby. But for instance, like I don't think you're not going to do surgeon simulator with medical beds. There'll definitely be some more in-depth gameplay at some point, but we're just never going to get that level of gameplay. But we definitely need to have things like the old actor status system 2.0 needs to get finished up. And Luke Presley, yes. The OG mission feature team is Luke. Fun fact, Luke is responsible for the old, what was it? For, my brain, no work. Luke is responsible for the old OG Korea missions. He was the one who was doing a lot of that work. I believe, you know what? Here's the thing, M. Walker. I believe organ harvesting has been mentioned in the design documents and in like working. They're working on it. It's something that's there. You're just not going to like cut open the chest and like reach in with your hand and Kalima kind of thing. It'll be automated. There'll be some beams or something like that will be done with the beds. Easy the short round. Easy the short round. Thank you for getting the joke there, Zombie Pig. Hashtag beam supremacy. Hashtag beam citizen. I'm trying to see something real quick. I timed earlier. YouTube about 86 seconds behind. Hashtag a beam took my job. Beams are so boring, to be honest. Not really. I mean, I disagree with that because I prefer gameplay to be added and beams work for gameplay. I disagree. That kind of mentality is the same kind of mentality that says, oh, you're reusing assets from the previous game. You're lazy. It's like, no, it takes fucking forever to do and to make and create assets and, you know, bespoke and stuff like that. That's if you want a game to come out this century, you'll probably want as many assets reused as possible. And beams are kind of fit that purpose. It doesn't mean that's going to be the last thing that you'll ever have. There'll be other content and there'll be some stuff that'll added, but you're not going to have a bespoke animation system which allows you to systematically cut open people's chests. There's going to be some dial back because you have to do that to make the game function. All right, chat. I'll be right back. When I get back here, we're going to do the read through of Squad 42 month report and then kind of wrap it up. So thank you for hanging by. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to turn on, yeah, everything should be turned back on. And if you're on Twitch, mute your, or on YouTube, mute for a moment when I come back.
Good news, everyone.
Weapons free, y'all.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an
Bounty
outlaw.
hunting is a complicated profession.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
It was at this moment that he knew.
I'm Fly. I'm Pilot.
Cajita's wares, if you have coin.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Hello. I like money. Distress bacon.
Hello. I like money.
Barcelona! Barcelona! Good news, everyone! Barcelona! Barcelona!
Bounty hunting is a complicated
Everybody and his dog
profession.
calls himself an outlaw.
Cajita's wares, if you have coin.
Meat kit. Yes, I know. Yeah.
2 words.
Yes, I know.
Distress bacon.
Yes.
Cajita's wares, if you have coin.
He has a tiny thing. Beams were always going to be a thing, Max. Strike from the sky, brothers! Hello, everyone. Welcome, everyone, from Loken Stream. My name is Paul, Berserker01, Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender here at the AstroPub. Your space bar, your favorite space bar at the end of the universe, end of the galaxy, whatever. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We'll get a good one for you. How y'all doing? Hey, Celine. It's a good model of a cat you have there. Yes. Doing good. Thanks, mate. You? I am stupid tired. So, for those of you who don't know, I've been mentioning this a couple times. I've decided that creativity has bit me in the butt, and I really, really want to get back to my roots. When I was younger, I always wanted to write, and I mean creatively write books and so on and so forth. So I wrote short stories, and I've got more abandoned novels than you can count. I wrote plays that got produced. So I enjoy the creative process, and some of that has been expressed in my content on YouTube and here on Twitch. And I just decided, I really just want to get back and expressing myself there. So for fun, I decided to pick up an idea that I'd had recently and kind of work with it. And I've written this. I've been working on it. It's effectively going to be like a serialized novel where I'm going to do chapter to chapter each month or so. It's inspired by The Martian, which did something similar. So I'm like, I can get back into this. And then I remembered why I fucking hated doing this, because I've rewritten the first chapter like 7 times. So that's why I've been tired, is because my dumbass has been trying to do more content and also doing that. It's fun. And people have asked, hey, are you going to like let us know? Now, I will of course let y'all know about when that goes up, so you all can laugh at me. Doesn't matter if you laugh at me either, because I'm still gonna fucking write it, because it's something in my brain that's gonna come out, and it will come out. Good timing too. We're going to be coming into the monthly report. So welcome, everybody. We're about to do the Squadron 42 monthly report. So make sure you sit back, relax. Ha ha ha, AstroPub. Ha ha ha. Thank you, Yan Chan. I appreciate it. I think you'll like it. Will Star Citizen's rating allow for the gore for organ harvesting, or will 1/8 CU box labeled liver or heart just appear? It's hard to say. I think CIG has said that they were shooting for a teen rating if they had to get a rating by it, but they're not going to limit their content to teen just because they want to hit a rating. Rewriting chapters, just do what I do. Become a conduit for the whole universes with creative writing and immerse yourself in that world. I mean, I do that already. The issue is more like I already have the story. I know what the story is going to be. I have the chapter kind of progression. I generally know the progression of the characters. I know the universe, roughly, and I've expanded it since then. But nah, I'm not going to use AI. This doesn't make a lot of sense. But the issue is more, as anyone will tell you, that your first chapter is the most important chapter of any novel or any sort of story. Your beginning, the first 5 minutes is super important. And the reason why it's super important is because it's the thing that hooks you. It's the thing that pulls you in, that tells you what's going on, what the stakes are, who you're following, why you should care. And like, I know that in general, the idea I have is good. And I think I can write compelling characters and a good story. And I know that because I've tried to start it in different ways. I haven't deleted any of those things. All of those things are still on the page. They're just further down. They're all portions from either earlier in the story or later in the story, maybe like flashbacks or flash forwards, which I've managed to sculpt out and work and kind of really make them really cool and interesting and kind of work with the narrative that I want to do. The problem is more, I want to set it up at a place that is, I think is solid. And I think I'm there now, but I've rewritten it like 7 times. Now I just got to do is add more detail to it and kind of really flesh out this beginning. So in the beginning, the universe was created. This made a lot of people mad and was generally seen as a bad idea. Yes. No one's going to top that introduction. No. All right. TheAstroPub loves gamers. He reads so they don't have to. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to be doing what I call a capsule. So a capsule is like a section that I make from this live stream specifically for YouTube, for content to upload to YouTube later. So that means that I am not going to be responding to chat as much. I'm going to be focusing on just reading through the Squadron 42 monthly report, kind of giving you some highlights. So if you have a question or comment, you can ask them there, but I may not see them. So you may have to ask them again when I get finished with the reading. So we're about to do that. Yeah, we're about to do the Squadron 42 monthly report. So, all right. So here goes nothing. Starting the recording. Hello and welcome to another Office Hours capsule. That's right. Capsule. Never stop doing that. It's a little capsule, like space, AstroPub space capsule. A little tiny little portion, a little pill for you to swallow, easier to pill to swallow, of my Office Hours live stream that we do on Thursdays at 4 p.m., 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. I think it was a little early today, but it'll probably do. I enjoyed doing this early, so we'll see. Twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, YouTube.com/TheAstroPubLive. If you want to come join us live, we talk about all of the latest news. When ISCs happen, we watch them, we do a watch along with them. We go through all of the information and try to kind of gather as much information. And, you know, if you want to ask questions about lore or any of the news, just kind of hang out and chill and talk and think. You see chat here. They're hanging out and chilling. They're going to tell you it's not live because they're jerks, and that's how chat works. But for now, we're going to cover the Squadron 42 monthly report. Now, this is a full read-through. We're going to look through the full text of the Squadron 42 monthly report for June. And if you enjoy this kind of content, if you've watched these in the past and you're watching this again, or you like the idea of going through all of it, having kind of an audiobook form of it, make sure you are liking the video, subscribing, and hitting the little bell icon. It helps me out a lot. It helps me get helps the YouTube robots figure out who should be liking these sorts of things. In the past, y'all have really enjoyed this as well. So please keep letting me know that you enjoy this. It helps me out to kind of know that I am doing something that people want to do. So without any further ado, let's read the Squadron 42 monthly report for June 2023. All right. AI content. Last month, the AI content team continued working on various behaviors. These range from NPC behaviors during downtime and rest, eating, exercising, sleeping, etc., to more official and job-focused behaviors from the members of the Stanton and aboard the Shubin station. So the Stanton is the UES Stanton, which is the Idris that you're aboard in Squadron 42. And the Shubin station has a name. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but that's one of the locations you will be at for social and other actions. So dynamic conversations were also introduced among the deck crew, where they discussed their work to create a more cohesive atmosphere. That's something I've been hoping for to see in Star Citizen eventually, so it's good. NPCs were also implemented in several key areas to help flesh out and fill environments, while various locomotions were also added to these NPCs to make the movement and crowds feel more realistic. These range from security guards on tram stops to janitors on Shubin to hawker kiosk-based vendors that can interact with players and NPCs. For the Fight Club, speed animations were added for crowd spectators alongside high-quality fight animations. That's something they talked about in the past, that there's some sort of Fight Club. I want to say it's for one of the pirate gangs, but it could be also for Shubin Station. There was definitely a mention of this in the past. AI features. Last month, the team worked on reactions to restricted AI, or to reactions to restrained AI, which enables players to use hand and leg restraints to prevent characters from moving. They're already working on animations for zip tying hands and legs for AI. This builds on the heal and waking of downed and unconscious AI, as restraining can work in tandem with other actor statuses. There are a number of cases to deal with, including the AI being awake, unconscious, or bleeding out whilst restrained. That's interesting. That's cool. So kind of a different way of dealing with those things. I'm guessing you can do some missions where you can knock out and then restrain opponents and have them come back and arrest them, that kind of stuff. So, chat's telling me Archon Station is the name of the station. The team then moved onto a gunfight section within the campaign. This situation, the AI needs to choose cover opposite the player in a circular arena. This requires a bespoke TPS query to provide the cover and special functionality to recognize when to move to a new position. So that's just like a bespoke specific event that happens in the game. They also continue to polish and iterate on a wide range of other functionalities to improve overall quality, including melee attacks, buddy AI, grenade throwing, grenade reactions, and attack and defend areas. So all of that stuff is functionalities that they've been talking about in the past. They've been working on them. All of those things exist. They have new melee attacks. They have buddy AI, which is where a player and an AI will work together. Grenade throwing, they showed off like how they'll throw grenades, and then also grenade reactions, like delayed reactions versus immediate reactions. And of course, attack and defend areas, so the AI can choose to attack or defend in a location. That's all features that are now, I guess, being worked on, or now being kind of expanded on beyond just the initial implementation. On the animation side, the team continued to iterate on full animation sets to implement the different combat styles employed by the game's various factions. Very cool. We know that they were working on the Screaming Galsons and the Vandul combat animations, so they might have just different styles they're trying to go for each one. AI Tech. Last month, AI Tech finalized their work on dynamic pathfinding regeneration. As mentioned in previous reports, this feature allows dynamic paths to detect when a navigation mesh is modified and check whether it's still valid or a new path request is needed. When a new dynamic path requested, the pathing component creates and stores navigation anchors. These anchors notify the pathing component each time the mesh changes, which then checks through navigation raycast to see if the path is still valid. If not, the last part of the path is recomputed. That's something that was on the Star Citizen monthly report, which I'll put up here if you're interested in that. So a lot of this stuff is going to be shared between Star Citizen and Squadron 42, especially the tech stuff, because it's all the same engine, basically. Next, the team continued developing a feature to allow NPCs to enter and exit a ship's airlock from EVA. For this, they had to consider cases when a ship or a space station is moving or slightly rotating. They're currently working on a scenario for transporting from a ship with gravity to zero gravity by vaulting over a ledge. For tools, AI Tech continued to improving and extending functionality of the Apollo subsumption, including adding 2 new windows for the task archetypes and variable type editors. This will allow the team to better visualize and modify archetypes and variables. The other AI tool, the Usable Group Coordinator, received improvements too. This included a minor flow reactor to reduce the performance impact from bad setups to more clearly notify the designers what's wrong. Again, all of this stuff is in the Star Citizen monthly report. So, last month, AI Tech also supported existing features and the upcoming release builds. For navigation links, they created new flow graph nodes that allow the designers to disable and re-enable navigation links for a platform or object container. For example, this will enable NPCs to use moving platforms. AI vehicle features. AI vehicle features team spent the month finalizing new combat AI, enabling it throughout Squadron 42. This work has been in development for a while and improves the overall flight combat in game. That's something they've been working on for a bit. For those of you who don't know, it's been about 6 months or so. The way that AI fights is going to completely change in about a year or so. Where there's going to be different types of fighting. So some AI will stick in close, other will stay far away. Some will try to run the second you try to engage them. So they'll have different behaviors, which are I think they call it the tag system, where each AI will have a tag which is associated with its behavior in combat. They already had that for FPS, and this is kind of taking that and modifying it for the AI vehicles groups, which allows for more interesting dynamic fighting, so you don't have the same type of behavior every time. The team are now tuning, tweaking, and improving the combat experience. We'll soon be taking a closer look at every single individual combat encounter and fine-tuning them all to feel great. All right, this is going to sound like copium, probably, or hopium, probably is. That's not something you do. This, like, if you're still building stuff out to kind of tweak every individual combat encounter, that's like a beta thing you do. It's a thing you do when you're finished with the base features and you're tweaking to improve the gameplay aspect of it. That's a polish feature, which again you don't do until after. We're used to in Star Citizen them doing a lot of polishing work for Star Citizen because they have to release it. But remember that Squadron 42 is not a released game yet, and they don't go through the same features and processes that Star Citizen does for each of the builds. So them talking about various polishes and things, especially since it's been increasing in quantity, seems to indicate that certain parts of the game are at least, or seem to be, in a beta state. Feature completed, and are just working on improving, getting out bugs, and kind of tweaking the experience here and there. So let me know in the comments below if I'm high on copium or hopium with this one. It's always good to know that. And, in general, commenting is good. Animation. Last month, Animation began a deep dive into every parent asset in the game to cull broken, not needed, and poorly performing animations. They continued to work on zero-G and takedowns, with recent work on heavy denials and sedative takedowns. Sedative takedowns? So you can, like, shoot somebody with a sleep dart or something? They also progressed with the animation for personal carriers, animals, and janitorial behavior. The janitor behavior, crowds cheering, and player revival by AI support, or by AI. Screw that one up. They also progressed with animations for personal carriers, animals, the janitorial behavior, crowds cheering, and player revival by AI. Does it mean maybe the animals means boids? They have mentioned in the past a dog in Squadron 42. So there is a dog in Squadron 42. If you can pet the dog, I believe was confirmed that you can, in fact, pet the dog in Squadron 42. Because they did say it on one of the monthly reports. They mentioned a dog one month, and the next month they said an animal does have interactables with it. I'm like, you can't tell me that's not a dog. So support was given to scenes across various chapters, and data from a recent mocap session was processed. Work on malfunctions and new mobiGlass animations progressed. So that's a good example, like malfunctions, new mobiGlass animations. That's not done yet. So like there's seems to be some aspects of Squadron 42 which are finished, but this is something that's like a basic thing that they haven't added yet. So malfunction should be a basic feature. And of course the new mobiGlass is required, like with animations and stuff like that. So maybe, that's hard to tell. The healing and unrestraining flow now works properly too. They said that earlier about the unrestraining, so maybe players can be restrained as well. On the facial side, the team worked on idle faces for various states of the AI, including sick, punk, severe pain, punk. Idle face of punk? What? I didn't know that there was an idle phase that's just punk phase. It's not a phase, Mom. Severe pain, tired, scared, and drunk. Maybe that means puke? Maybe they meant to say puke? This will improve AI considerably, as we believe the moment you see a person's face, you naturally look at it. Instead of when that face is hidden by a helmet, you end up looking at the full body. We've also been working on facial animations for many narrative scenes. Animation team. Bring down the man face. Regarding mocap, the team prepared an upcoming narrative shoot alongside one intended to capture specific character actions and pickups. They also prepared for several gameplay mini captures. So like they're still doing animation stuff in here. They're doing some pickup stuff, and I've mentioned this in the past. When you're doing pickups, it means that they've already had the general flow of what they're looking at. Now they're just going to do like kind of second unit stuff, the last kind of pickups. So that's again hard to tell. It's more polishing, but I can tell you that there's still a lot of work to do. Audio. June saw the audio team enhancing sounds across the game. SFX designed and implemented essential assets for ambience, weapons, and UI, while Audio Code finished developing cutting-edge propagation tech to define how sound travels. July will see them move into cinematics team improvements. The dialogue team refined the character's breathing system for different health states, fixing bugs and organizing dialogue across the campaign. This also involved investigating the various health states of the player character and how breathing styles can elevate the experience. So prepare for I'm sorry if you're watching this without headphones on at work. In July, the team are holding performance capture sessions to cover numerous scenes in the game, in preparation to create a master document to track every piece of dialogue implemented in the game. Wow, that's a lot. All right. Engine is next one, and as I was to say, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a Starfleet engineer. I can't turn rocks into replicators. I do not know the will of the Omnissiah. I am not a engine seer. I'm but me, a simple bartender, teacher person, and I don't fully know what engine does. So forgive me if I can't explain some things, but feel free to explain them in the comments if you know what this is. Now, of course, this is also probably pretty much a recap, like a retread of what was in for the Star Citizen engine report. So if you've already done that, you can skip to the next section, which would be features. So. In June, the core engine team finished integrating the latest changes to the main development branch. This took a significant effort, but the team managed to stabilize and roll out the many major rewrites made over the past few months. Additionally, experiments were done on a more cooperative threading model to execute physics code, which should deliver general performance improvements. For generic shapes, all editor-side work for regular shapes was finished and is now with the artists for feedback. The next stage is editor support for multiple sub-engagements to allow the team to build more complex shapes out of primitive subshapes. The StarBuild P4K V2 and MEM replay system receives various improvements and new features in preparation for them rolling out to other teams. The physics team supported the game teams with various bug fixes, progressed with cantilever beams for the Maelstrom editor, and investigated solver improvements for driven ragdolls. I've heard in the past people said the Maelstrom was the new damage system, but why would you need cantilever beams for damage system? That sounds like a physics engine. I'm beginning to think that the Maelstrom is a new physics engine, which includes the damage system, which is something they had mentioned in the past about trying to use the core engine to do damage states more efficiently. So. The physics team supported the game teams with various bug fixes, progressed with cantilever beams from Maelstrom editor, and investigated solver improvements for driven ragdolls. The IM GUI view was then implemented to allow rapid tweaking of simulation parameters for character attached cloth, so the changes can become immediately visible. So a little bit better in terms of like managing cloth physics. The Entity System Tech team integrated the recent improvements into the main development branch. They then worked on various spawning time improvements and cost visualizations to allow for further guided loading time optimizations. Finally, async entity loading was enabled in the editor for faster startup and improved efficiency. Features gameplay. Gameplay features spent part of the month adding a new mobile gas applications, including the Galactopedia, which is a reference for people, vehicles, planets, systems, items, and everything else in the verse. As players progress, the Galactopedia will be updated with the information gathered. There you go. Wasn't it called the same thing in Mass Effect? This is the same thing. So the Galactopedia is now going to update as you go along with the game. So that's a nice little cool. So, Pokedex. Yeah, Star Citizen's Pokedex. Personal Status app now has a skills page detailing the player's abilities and how they've improved. It also includes an attributes page dealing with what items have been unlocked and how progress is going on others. That's confusing. Skills versus attributes. Because CIG calls, so for those of you who don't know, there's a passive skill system they're using where like the more you run or the more you work out or the more you do something, the higher your skills will become. But I think the attributes page isn't an attributes as in actual attributes like you would say like strength or dexterity or wisdom or whatever. I think the attributes page is literally what you are given. Like what weapons you have, what equipment you own. I think that's a really confusing thing. The team also implemented a new way for designers to create custom damage maps. These can be applied to vehicles or items, giving more control over how damaged they appear over time. Following the last month's work, gameplay features further progressed with the minimap, adding markers for the player, NPCs, objectives, and more. These can now be clamped to an edge of the map if they're off screen. Okay. Additional work was done on Character Customizer 2, exposing it to the new hair rendering tech that allows players to change their hair's base colors and highlights. There we go. Last month they did talk about a new player character customizer and creator, and that's the first mention of the new hair rendering tech, which has been in development for like 5 years. That they finally did, and they must have stopped working on it because they wanted to do a new character creator. And for those who don't know, there is a new character creator that's being built for Squadron, which will probably eventually get ported to Star Citizen. So. Features, vehicle. Last month, vehicle features supported various design initiatives across Squadron 42 chapters, including work on the coil's electromagnetic gas cloud. The team worked alongside VFX and design to implement various special effects to support players' experience flying into and around gas clouds. The team also supported the smaller changes to other chapters, new features to enable the AI teams to create special set pieces, and ways for tracked view to control vehicles better. They also continued to finalize control surfaces and the new aerodynamic flight model, which were integrated into the normal ship throttle and speed control mechanisms. They also integrated new environmental effects relating to the master modes, so they now work across different flight modes. We should hopefully be at a point where the new flight model can be enabled in game-wide and tested in situ in Squadron 42 gameplay, Vehicle Features team. So they're now at a point where they can do master modes and flight models, the new aerodynamic flight models. And we know that master modes were being tested internally or with the PGU for Star Citizen, which may mean that that stuff is finished for Squadron by this month. But we'll know more in July's Monthly Report. Vehicle Features further developed various UI areas in June too. To help with the flow of levels, they worked on with other teams on markers and objective systems that shows players where to go, what destinations exist, and what things are around them. It also includes new markers for quantum destinations, scanning signatures, and more. These markers can contextually enable and disable depending on the progress in the game. The team progressed with Ship Loadout Terminal. This is a physical terminal in the Idris hangar that allows players to customize their ships before flying out on missions. It's currently being integrated with the various ship teams so that they can show up alongside the player items. Multifunction displays, MFDs, also progressed. They're currently enabled game-wide and are being tested in various levels. Several issues were fixed, and the team is now focusing on unique MFDs for the scanning system to show contracts and to allow the player to look up information about things they've scanned. Okay. Really enabled game-wide and are being tested in various levels. Okay, so MFDs are done. That's a big thing because for those of you who don't know, the MFD system was required as kind of like the base system for the new HUD, the new ship HUD, because you could take MFD portions and put them in your HUD, and they're experimenting with that idea. So yeah, so it looks like MFDs are done. I wouldn't be surprised if we get to UI and find out the HUD is done. So there's a lot of stuff that's in Squad 42 that we were told about last year that were being worked on that seem to be finishing up and are now, like tech-wise, are now being added to the game to be tested in-game, like with everything else. Focus was also given to the general look and feel of vehicle cockpits. For example, the team added new camera shakers when using the afterburner, stalling when flying with aerodynamics, and other small camera movements to improve the overall feel of piloting a ship. Lastly, vehicle features worked with the boat physics model. The core physics model works well, although the improvements and tweaks were made to improve the experience as other features were completed. Boats! Those of you who know, boats have been registered and been worked on for Squad 42 for a bit. That's the first mention I've seen them in a monthly report, though, so it's interesting. Gameplay story. June saw gameplay story continue to maintain and improve a large number of scenes across the campaign. 2 scenes were updated and to use the approved seated pose. One will now utilize the approved data pad, and another was updated to match the approved button height. Alongside this, the scene in Chapter 1 was expanded with several new encouragement animations and new dialogue. The team then supported the wider development initiative on Chapter 5, improving a character introduction at the beginning to make it more responsive. New start and end animations were added to 2 different scenes in the middle of the chapter, and a full polish was completed for the large scene at the end. You don't do that unless it's finished. You're not doing these big polishes unless like the basic functionality is done. I don't know if that could be a bad thing. It could be that CIG is wasting time on polishing something that is going to be, you have to be repolished. But I don't know. It's weird. Alongside this, the team got all of the bridge operator seat setups approved. Just the aircraft control seats remains. This unblocks several scenes for cinematics and wider gameplay story team. Okay. Graphics and VFX programming. June saw the Planet Tech team wrapping up their latest tools and working on the new water system. Water ripples can now be simulated across region borders, and further reworks to re-encode integrations with planetary atmospheric passes made the process smoother. Quantum obstacles for generic shapes were also physicalized and passed to the engine team for integration. All of this stuff was in the Star Citizen monthly report as well. The graphics team spent part of the month fixing bugs, improving the render thread, and developing the upcoming temporal upscaling system. For global illumination, a ray tracing prototype is now in progress, and work began on screen space probes. Screen space shadows are now more consistent, and canvas decal streaming issues were resolved. Gen 12 and Vulkan also received various bug fixes that impacted rendering and streaming performance. The GPU resource lifetime was restructured, and WAW hazards for render graph deferred execution are handled more efficiently too. The first iteration of entity spawning based on mesh setup and CGAs was submitted, which is required for Maelstrom. Again, that's the second mention of Maelstrom. Another mention of Maelstrom. I believe that just means that the physics engine. I believe Maelstrom is CIG's physics engine. Damage may be ported to it, but why would you need entity spawning for the damage system? Doesn't make a lot of sense. Maybe it does. I don't know. Alongside UI tech and other Squad 42 teams, graphics improved the performance and visual quality of the area map. The interior and FPS minimaps now use the render layers feature, which can be applied to CGA joints, skin, and CGF attachments. Incorrect UI edge cases were also resolved and now scale correctly with scene exposure. The VFX team enabled DataForge to support particle library groups in preparation for the upcoming changes to weapon effects setups. That means like they've talked about this in some of the other ones, jamming, degradation of weapons and stuff like that. There's a little bit more of a like a wear and tear system that's being added, which is like a visual system to weapons and gear and stuff like that. A crash impacting fire-related child effects was fixed, and an entity-wide burn state can now be applied to use dirt parameters and object temperature to determine damage and glow. Glow uses a specific shader from permanent effects for game-wide consistency. Lightning was also improved. For example, lightning cascades can be timed with a new controller, and ship shields now trigger when struck by lightning. That's mostly for the coil, where you can get hit by lightning in the coil. But it also means that they can use the same system for actual weather effects in game. So, who knows? Level design. June saw level design make another significant push on Chapter 5's Shubin Archon content. This is the team's largest walk and talk level, featuring 2 NPC guides and numerous background scenes and NPCs. It's been a huge challenge to implement and another maintaining it, but we're very pleased with where we are now, level design team. They also continued the focus on Stanton and Krugery interstitial scenes. For example, they made a full pass on an emergency medical triage area in Krugery's hangar. So for those of you who don't know, the Shubin Archon Station, so Chapter 5 seems to be implying that it's mostly a social one. Squadron 42 is broken up into 3 levels, 3 types of missions. You have social, FPS, and flight. So the team breaks it up into those three subcategories. It looks like the level design team for Chapter 5 is mostly focusing on a social interaction, so it might just be not a very heavy action chapter where you're getting to know characters, character development, learning where you're supposed to go. And of course, Stanton is the UES Stanton, which is the Idris we've seen before, and the Krugery is a Bengal carrier. So they're working on some transitions and some interstitial scenes, which can happen on the Stanton or the Krugery. We know that the Krugery exists because if you watch the Squadron 42 trailer, the cinematic trailer, you actually see the UES Krugery written on one of the Bengals that's flying through the coil. Narrative. Last month, Narrative worked closely with core gameplay development, gameplay design, and audio on player wild lines that will be used throughout the game, covering everything from generic responses to providing additional assistance during puzzles. This work was slightly accelerated as the team prepared to capture the remaining player lines in an upcoming shoot. Stop giving me hope, CIG. Stop doing that. Don't do this. You're not recording any more player lines? That's big. Elsewhere, the team continued to sync with the level designers to refine scripts based on feedback from placeholder audio. Once written, they recorded new placeholder versions so they can experience the flow in future reviews. And chat's confused puzzles. Yeah, there's going to be gameplay puzzles. Like I've guessed for a while that the rope system that they've been developing for the engine, people talk about ropes and they joke about, bondage. No, that's rope puzzles. It's like classic FPS gameplay. So yeah, we're obviously going to be puzzles. And we've actually saw in the vertical slice, they showed off a bit of the puzzles where you have to take like the power plant out of one of the systems and put it into the base and kind of restart up power so you can get access to things. So there'll be stuff like that. As the scripts continued to solidify, the team expanded tasks to begin addressing the various text needs of the game. This included outlining the game's version of Galactopedia, determining which entries would be included from the current list and which can be crafted specifically for Squadron 42. Various collectibles, player skills, and mission performance reviews. Once the team has finished capturing and renaming capturing the remaining narrative and gameplay content, they'll focus more on these text requirements and other requests, including environmental messages and fluff scenes that will appear throughout the game to provide additional storytelling. That's, again, stop doing this to me, CIG. R&D. In June, work on atmospheric and volumetric cloud rendering continued. Transmittance profiles to their filter chains were optimized and improved to reduce noise and artifacts in Raymarch results. Further research went into temporal upscaling or upsampling of those results to produce a stable and detailed full resolution frame that can then be composited into a scene. Tech animation. June saw Tech Animation integrate their long-awaited changes to the DNA system. This enables new head assets and provides a pipeline that will open new ways to author and customize new game content. The team then began new initiatives while they wait for further head art. This includes updating the Maya pipeline codebase from Python 2.7 to 3.7 and thoroughly testing it. This was released to the user base in June, with the team currently working through the final bugs. And lastly, aside from the usual support for locations and cinematic sequences, VFX investigated shader requirements for fire propagation. Code-wise, the fire propagation system has been in progress for a while, but has now reached the point where VFX artists can work with environmental art to decide how various locations should look when burning and burned out. Improvements and optimizations were also made for various lighting effects. So, there's a lot of dangerous talk of optimizations within the context of Star Citizen or context of game development that seem to be pointed that there are large sections of the game which are finished and are finishing up with their polishing stages, the stage upon which beta would normally happen. There are some stuff that still looks like basic stuff which hasn't been done, especially animations, but there's large parts of narrative, confirmation of things like puzzles, an entire level design based off of a walk and talk thing, or at least a significant design. We saw improvements to the cinematics, to some of the ancillary AI stuff. The entirety of the AI behavior has been updated for flight behavior has been updated to the new system. Now it can be implemented. MFDs are done. We've got control surfaces and the new quantum boost stuff. The what do they call it? Master modes are finished and are being implemented into the game. We got some personal status apps with skills and player abilities, as well as attributes. We have audio teams working on heavy breathing, animation working on zero-G takedowns and sedative takedowns, and there's like restraining enemy combatants, enemy AI and various other things for AI stuff. And yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff here. I think the biggest takeaway is that they finished the space-based AI behavior and the animations and other stuff around like takedowns and like restraining AI. That's kind of probably the biggest stuff that they've been talking about here. But thank you for watching. I want to know down below your thoughts on this. Am I just huffing too much hopium here? Am I mainlining too much here, or does it sound to you like CIG is wrapping up a lot of sections of Squadron 42? As always, if you want to know about these things, I do these monthly. I release them to YouTube, and I'm going to start to release them to. I have already released one, but I'll release more to the podcast format, which will both be in the links below. The podcast format will be links below if you want to do this. It'll be on Spotify. So if you want to listen to this while you're driving, less heavy on the YouTube, you can do that as well. And yeah, thank you for watching. Come join us live at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive. Love to have you here for these and kind of join the discussion. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. All right. Not bad. Hey, Yan Chen. No, we're still doing this. We just because we finished the recording, I'm not hanging out. So what do y'all think? Am I mad? Like, that sounds like a lot of, within the context of everything I talked about, that sounds like a lot of CIG is fucking finishing some of these things. And I don't want to believe it, because then I'll get excited for it. And then CIG is going to say, oh yeah, we're releasing Squadron 42 in 2027. And then I'm like, fuck my brain. Dare to dream. It's a trap. There's definitely going to be doing something at CitizenCon. Like, there's almost no way of doing 2 days at CitizenCon, and also because, like, to be quite honest, CIG struggles traditionally to find content for CitizenCon. They never are like, oh, we have so many people that and not enough time. It's usually CIG has. Sometimes on like the best years, they'll have maybe a little bit too many things and not enough time. But generally speaking, they have enough for about a day's of content. So 2 days is a lot. I'll be going to CitizenCon. Yes, I'll be going to CitizenCon. Sounds like an abusive relationship. All right, Bison. Probably show you a year of the new studios, maybe a short tour of Turbulent. Maybe. I mean, I think it's a cynical point of view of saying like, hey, yeah, CIG is just going to show a bunch of tours at CitizenCon. It seems kind of weird. I got that 3D modeling X game dev friend into Star Citizen. And then one month I pointed to the Squadron 42 month report. He was like, this is further along than people realize, or CIG doesn't know how to prioritize development. So basically either it's further along than people realize, or CIG is doing things they shouldn't be doing. Both could be true, to be quite perfectly honest. Where's Fishy at? He didn't tell the future self bye. Oh, he didn't. Oh no. I'm so excited to get to play Star Citizen Squadron 42. Hope it's soon. I do too. I'm just one of those things where I'm just like, I want to believe. Trust me. I am Fox Mulder. I want to believe. But at the same time, answer the call 2016. That's all I gotta say. Like, struggles to find content for the game too. You're playing with Freelancer for fuck's sake. That's how ready I am and willing to wait for a couple more years. I think CIG would get a major W if they released like the first level of the game as a demo. No one does demos anymore. But for the nature of this development of this game, if they released a playable demo, like, you know, end of the year, I don't think it's possible, but something like that, like a year before they plan on releasing, I think it would go a long way to people going, oh fuck, like this is the quality they're going for. Well, fuck me, kind of situation. Or Free Flies get Chapter 1. Yeah. Turns out CHE doesn't know how to market and is releasing Squadron 42 at CitizenCon. Huffs 5,000 gallon tank of copium. Yeah. So it's like, I am seeing the signs. The bones are lining up properly. The tea leaves are telling me that this is going to happen, and all of the sources I have where I do are giving me the vibes that something up. CIG has been suspicious, and specifically around Squadron 42. But you know. Hey, Matt Sutter. CIG is sus right now. Let them cook. I'm excited for it. Based off of what, for those of you who don't know, I have completely spoiled myself on Squadron 42. By accident, multiple times. Because I'm stupid and I go through leaked files. But I haven't actually played the game. I haven't seen gameplay outside of what y'all have seen. All I know is the audio files and the mission descriptions. And based off of that experience, I can tell what the story is. I know the twist. I know there's the story twist, and I know I know everything like that. And it sounds interesting. Like, maybe I'm weird, but like, knowing the full story of Squadron 42 doesn't make me go, oh, I don't want to play this game. I know the story. It's like, no, I want to see how this goes out. Like, how the fuck does that happen? Must be boring to play the game knowing everything. I play games that I've already beaten. Squadron, or Halo. Halo is a great example. I played the shit out of Halo, and I have to go back to it every so often and play the campaign. It's fun to play through, and kind of, even though you know the story. Played Half-Life 2 about 10 times, yeah. And I will say, the way that CIG seems to be designing Squadron 42 is also built around replayability. Because the concept is, so CIG and lore and Star Citizen's development, or CIG's development team, go hand in hand. So the theme of Squadron 42, the Squadron, is that there are a bunch of ace pilots who were told an objective and they're let go. Your job is to do this. Go. You're given an objective and you do it. You don't get handheld. You don't follow exactly what your leaders do. Your commander will tell you to do the job. They don't care how you get it done. You get it done. That was the lore behind Squadron 42, and the gameplay of Squadron 42 is very similar. This isn't actually a spoiler or anything like that. Let's just say there's a hostage situation in a space station. Your commanding officer says, free the hostages. That's all you have to do. How you do it, entirely up to you. That's the kind of design style. If you watch the one and only briefing room they released, they talk about that a lot because they're developing this entire station fully fleshed out with multiple avenues and multiple ways of approaching a problem because they want players to have replayability. The idea is that the gameplay will naturally conform to whoever's doing the game, but there'll be multiple ways of approaching the same topic, so you can go back and play again if you wanted to see a different way of running it out. Torpedo station hostages are now free. So and that also corresponds with Chris Roberts' design style. Anyone who's played like Wing Commander knows what I'm talking about. Because there's also branching narratives. So say there's that station. You're supposed to board the station, free the hostages, and bring them back. What if they die? Normal games, game over, we do the mission. Chris Roberts' game, you fucked up, now you move on. There is no redo button. You gotta keep going. Which means there are bad endings and good endings. Like, there will be branching paths, at least if they stick to the original idea of Squadron 42. So there is there's an entire possibility that the game will have a point where you fuck up and everyone dies. That would also explain why. That would also explain why that script was just like stacked. It was like a thick script. So, between all of those, it makes me go, I may know the twist and the basic story of Squadron 42, but I don't fucking know all the endings. I don't fucking know the entirety of what can happen, can't happen. I just know the basic plot. To give you the concept of like how deep this rabbit hole could go with CIG and Squadron 42. So you don't know who dies? Maybe. I'm not going to go into too depth, but all I'll say is there is definitely an indication that there is branching options. It'll definitely be a canon ending, yeah. Whatever, it'll probably have a Wilhelm scream. Like, for instance, I'm pretty certain that there is no branching options for the first mission. There's a success and failure state for the first mission. But then beyond that, you might have branching options. So there may not be every mission has a branching option, but there may be pivotal events in or at the end of different missions, which will affect what goes forward and what you expect. Don't tell me Cal Mason dies. Fucking hate you, Al. Don't tell me Cal Mason dies. He is my husband. He's my space husband, and you're not going to tell me that my space husband dies. I will cry. I will cry like a bitch if he dies. I wonder if Squadron 42 will have a secret ending. I doubt it'll have a secret ending. I don't think they're going to go full Silent Hill with the secret endings. I don't think Squadron 42 had secret endings or anything like that. So, or no, Wing Commander had any secret endings or anything like that. But so I'm late tonight, but with all the new committed cards we're seeing writing on the wall for August, September 320, I don't think so, Arquin. I think we're going to see, I still think 320 has a high chance of releasing at CitizenCon. Now, that doesn't mean we won't see like an EPTU or PTU by September, but it's hard to see. Aimless. I don't think we're going to see Mark Hamill in chapter 2. I don't see that happening. Because Mark Hamill is, like, narratively speaking, this is the spiritual successor to Wing Commander. And Mark Hamill was the main character in Wing Commander, for those who don't know. And him being your mentor in Squadron 42, and he being called the Old Man, I don't think whether he lives or dies, he probably won't come back for chapter 2. He'll either live and retire or die and be a martyr kind of thing. And Mark is busy, yeah. You mean like Transformers Fall Cybertron ending where the characters are dancing, dumb, you got the touch in the background? Oh, that's nice. Don't tell me my bird wife who dies. Also, every mentor character called the Old Man is definitely getting murked for emotional payoff. Yeah. And John Rhys Davies was in there too. And John Rhys Davies is playing a former Navy pilot who was good friends with the Old Man. I forgot his name in Squad 42, but like, and you see him meeting the Old Man. So like all of those are callbacks to Wing Commander. And obviously this is seen as a passing of the torch, sort of narratively speaking, that's what we would be doing. Then I really wish we have a Hobbs. I really want to see a Tavaran Hobbs. That would be badass. No, for those of you who don't know, Hobbs was the Kilrathi, character pilot who flew with you in Commander. I think it's pronounced Reese. I don't think it's pronounced Rice. John Rhys Davies. Because it's Welsh, isn't it? His last name? I mean, there's doing a little nostalgia work for fun and getting roped into another interactive movie trilogy. I don't think see either of them. They could still do a prequel or flashbacks. They could. But I don't think we're going to see Mark Hamill as the main character of a main character of Squadron 42 going forward. We know that John Rhys Davies' his character is the security head of Archon Station. So. But there's only a way to de-age him. Citizen Kilroy, may I remind you that that Mark Hamill has children who are actors. It wouldn't be that difficult to just hire one of his kids to be a voice actor and or character like a body actor, and it would look fine. Okay, I thought he was Welsh, yeah. And the trailer Hamill character isn't pissed because he's getting a new wing and hinting the old one just died. We could see more Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill does play a member of Squadron 42, so. Paul, this guy looks like a young Mark Hamill they used for Mandalorian Season 2 finale. I think it's his son. Or his grandson. I know you're talking about Zal, and I do believe that's his son or grandson. I know he has kids, so. Because no pilot ever gets promoted or transferred ever. Who plays... I bet they don't return. I hate you. What is his full name? The actor who's playing him is Jack Houston. Is this an actor who looks like him? Okay. Gotta love Jack Houston. Yeah, and Mark Hamill's character is Ryan Enright. So. My reaction would just be like, these motherfuckers are crazy and they're actually releasing Squadron 42. That would be my reaction if Mark, Jillian, and Henry walk on the stage. I know it's unrelated to Squadron 42, but I wish they would add belly lights, the big ships for landing. There's a lot of lighting they need to fix with Star Citizen and ships. Max Lloyd Jones was the... Okay. Squad Commander Enright, yeah. which Squadron Commander Henright, which means he's the leader of Squadron 42, I believe. So that's more than a cameo. He is the squadron leader for Squadron 42. And that's why he said, "You take the lead, Cal." Yeah. Didn't know Cavill was in until this week. There was a great video I saw about how CIG screwed up Squadron 42 because it's like, what if I told you Gillian Anderson, Mark Hamill, Henry Cavill, why am I blanking on his name? Because he now has an Academy fucking award. Not Mark Strong. Because Mark Strong might have one. Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman were in a space opera and a video game. We're in a video game together, and you'll never see it. And my first thought, like, they fucked this up because they haven't even promoted it. I'm like, they haven't promoted it because it's not done yet. When this comes out, when this starts getting promoted, you're going to see people go, "What the fuck? What the fuck is this? Where did this come from?" Because this was when Henry Cavill had just finished being Superman. Like, this is pre-Henry Cavill's massive fame that he has now. Yeah, and Andy Serkis, Mark Strong. There's so many people in there. Mark Strong, a.k.a. Titus from Space Marine. Real talk, excited about Henry Cavill and Squadron 42, more excited about Henry Cavill and Warhammer live action show. Yeah. It is possible for Squadron 42 to be a bad game with star actors. It's impossible for it to be a badly acted game, I think. But there's always the possibility. Chris Roberts isn't exactly known as a fantastic director. Sorry, Chris. Wing Commander, the movie, kind of says that. But in Chris's defense, there was a lot of budget cuts and other studio mismanagement with the Wing Commander movie that he was able to get through to get it even released in the first place. Liam Cunningham, I believe you're talking about, the Mariner dude. In his defense, he did Bullet Time before was it released before The Matrix? Was Wing Commander released before The Matrix? Or was it the same year? Damn. Okay, I'll play the Bishop. So we know that Squad 42 takes place around the Battle of Vega because this was the main, trailer that they said Answer the Call 2016.
Ladies and gentlemen, this emergency session is called to order. Admiral Bishop, you have the floor.
For 200 years, we have battled the Vandal. We have caught these attacks, raids, or skirmishes or incursions. But I am here to tell you that we are at war. Tiber, Orion, Caliban, Virgil, once human systems all but abandoned in the face of the enemy. The Vanduul are at our gates. Weapons bared while we hide and cower. Retreating as they burn and decimate everything around us. We cannot let the tragedy of Vega happen again. We cannot give the Vanduul any more ground. To defend this empire, we must attack. And we have to be committed to that attack, whatever the cost may be. We have to rebuild our fleet. We have to use the power of human innovation to reclaim these so-called red systems and strike back at the enemy. This will not be an easy fight. It will cost us in resources, in credits, in lives. Well, some of you may be asking why undertake such a thing, and I can tell you in one word. Victory! For if there's one thing the Vanduul has taught us, it's that without victory, there can be no survival!
That didn't age. That didn't age. Ouch. I wanted to watch the most of that stuff. This is prior to Henry. This is before they announced what this is, again, before Henry Cavill was a big name, so. Until, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the question was, is there good acting and good direction? And that's, this Gary Oldman bringing is fucking fire. But someone said it was like it's not very original. No, because it's wholly cribbed from a famous speech by Prime Minister. What am I thinking? Churchill. Yeah, it's entirely like half of it is directly lifted from a famous Churchill speech. The victory speech. You know, that's part where he says, without victory, there is no survival. Let me pull it up and I'll show it to you. This is the famous "We Shall Fight on the Beaches" one, I believe. Yeah, he also played Churchill. Yeah. Let's see if we can pull this up. Yeah, here we go.
Mr. Speaker, on Friday evening last, I received His Majesty's commission to form a new administration. It was the evident wish he conceived parties of the opposition. A war cabinet has been formed, the unit either in the war cabinet. It was necessary that the extreme urgency and rigor of today, and I am submitting a further appointment of the principal minister usually takes a little. My task will be completed. Sir, I considered it in the public interest to suggest that the House should be summoned to meet today. Mr.
Let's see if I can find it.
Take it. Am I wrong? It is wholly cribbed from that speech and from other Winston Churchill speeches as well. That radio broadcast is not the blood, toil, and sweat. I thought it was. Now, obviously, the Squad 42 speech is a little bit more refined, but you can also see that I can see, historically speaking, that the idea of Admiral Bishop lifting Churchill's words directly to use his own for his own purposes makes a lot of sense. It also, as a writer, it's drawing parallels between the Vandal War and World War II, placing the UEE as the British in World War II and the Vandal as the Germans, which is something that Chris Roberts likes to do in his narratives, especially with Wing Commander. So, see, it's sad how many people forgot about the Nazi invasion of Riga 2. Now, this was done before the Parliament. But I believe it was broadcast from Parliament. This wasn't like a speech done to radio. Look it up. It's called the Blood, Toil, and Tears and Sweat speech. First speech of Prime Minister to the House of Commons. Famous speech by given Worcester House of Commons Parliament on 13th of May, 1940. The House of Commons, after being offered commissions on Friday, became the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom for the first year.
Can you give me a citation for that, Greg? It's not that I don't believe you. It's just that everything it tells me is that it was done before everything. Okay, so it was eventually recorded for broadcast. May 10th, 1940. His predecessor, Neville Chamberlain. Churchill had been in Chamberlain's. Parliament for the first time in 5 minutes. For 5 minutes. If Hollywood had staged the scene, Churchill's defiant words would have been met with thunderous applause, but life seldom follows Hollywood scripts. Few MPs clapped. Many of Churchill's few Tories grumbled. They still preferred Chamberlain. No one outside the Parliament heard the speech live. BBC reports merely summarized it. Churchill's first radio address to the nation would not come until May 19th. It would take days for the word of the speech to step across the border. A version of the speech was eventually recorded for broadcast. So it wasn't this bad, but it's still a famous speech. I don't think that that discounts just because it wasn't broadcast doesn't mean it wasn't a famous speech that people use. It's referencing that he took it from Giuseppe Garibaldi, that and that it's actually been printed on in April 2013. The Bank of England announced the blood, toil, tears, and sweat quote will appear alongside a portrait of Winston Churchill on Britain's new £5 notes. That's the point. It's like, it's definitely lifted from that. All right, y'all. That's it. That's it for me. I'm going to call it a night. Thank you so much for watching us tonight here at the AstroPub. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Again, we'll be live. I may be live tomorrow. I'm going to try to work on this this new video that I've been trying to work on for a bit, get that up there up tomorrow and to get it ready to release by Saturday. The thing I just did will be up on Saturday as well. We'll definitely have a captain's table tomorrow. I still got our tomorrow Saturday, but I got to figure out somebody else other than Night Cop. I think we're gonna have some other people. But yeah, thank you for watching. Thanks for hanging out. And like I say every time, I hope to see you someday in the black. So I'm going to let it run for a little bit because apparently there's enough of a delay on YouTube that it can take a while for them to actually catch up. So if you're listening to this, it's probably going to end right now on YouTube. The rest of you, we're going to hang out here for a little bit. We're going to find something to raid.